It is Tuesday night. It is 9 o'clock ish. That means it is time for another episode of Go Horns and Fight Songs. I am your host, as always, Wes, on Twitter at Painted Bronco. Joining me once again is my co-host, Mike, at Maro04 on Twitter. How was your weekend of hockey, Mike?
I had basically zero weekend of hockey because UMD didn't play, and then I was fishing up near Canada. So I did not see a lick of hockey, honestly.
You're going to be so helpful tonight. Well, that's okay because I watched all of the hockey.
Yeah, that's
Except,
why you're the professional and I'm not.
Except the Western game because it was not on TV. But I did listen to it, so while watching other games. I'll tell you what, that 4x4 screen that you get on the NCHC TV is choice for watching every single game being played. Also,
Well, I am gonna upgrade this week just so I can watch a lot more hockey this weekend. Even though I still, depending on if I go up north or not, I still will not be able to watch the UMD game. I should be able to watch it at my parents' house, but they are away playing Mankato, and that will be on CCHE TV, and I will not be able to watch it.
You are a hoser, and I hate everything about you.
I could listen to it,
Actually,
stream it on the internet, but
I have to grab something, so keep the people entertained for like 35 seconds.
that's asking way too much of me right now.
Okay, it's going to be... Ow!
I think you on camera is enough of entertainment. What are you doing?
It would have been a lot less than that if I hadn't tried to rip my ears off with my headphones.
Oh, that was way more entertainment than I could have ever provided.
I took notes in another place, so I had to find like all of the notes I took today. All right. Where do you... Actually, no, we already know where we're going to start. Let's go over our picks from last week.
Yeah, that sounds good. Which game do you want to start with? The top one that I have is the North Dakota series against Holy Cross.
We can start there. I picked that as a sweep, and I was correct on that.
I did as well. North Dakota did North Dakota things, and they shut out Holy Cross 6-0 on Friday, and then they won 4-1 on Saturday, which is, I don't think, was a surprise to anyone in the hockey world at all.
No, I think the only thing that there was a series, I think it was in the second period where North Dakota kind of got away from their game a little bit. They ended up taking like 3 or 4 penalties like in a row there in the second period, and it almost, that's probably the wrong way to state that, but like it could have been a chance for a different team to get back into the matchup. Luckily, I don't think they gave up a goal in that sequence. They didn't, because that was the 6-0 win for Notre Dame. But I mean, it was
for Notre Dame
or North Dakota. I was watching like 4 games at once. All right, calm down.
I'm the one with the beer here. Come
on. They did also have, I think, 2 goals waved off. I don't remember what the second one was for, but there was a one later. I think they called it a distinct kicking motion. I'm trying to go through some of the live tweets I sent out from the Go Horns Fights and Fight Songs Twitter handle. So I did a little bit of the live tweeting during the games. But yeah, not the cleanest game from North Dakota. But I mean, like I said, that's one of those series where it's like a Division I playing or an FBS school playing a FB, or what is it, FPC or
FCS.
Yeah. An FCS playing an FBS or something like that. I think that's what they're called. Or FBC.
FBS playing an FCS.
Yeah.
So basically, any Division I team playing not North Dakota State.
So I mean, like, I think that there's kind of a potential for that to be expected, but it wasn't really until like late in the game that North Dakota really kind of took over. So some things to clean up. We did get the picks right. I think we both picked a sweep there. So yeah, not really surprising. That was the outcome of that series.
No, not at all. And I compare that to St. Cloud playing St. Thomas for their first series of the year. Just get games under your belt, figure out what your team is, and then get ready for conference play. The next one that I have is Omaha, and I was actually wrong on this one. I had a split for Omaha, and they got swept by Niagara, both by a score of 4-3.
I had the same thing. So we were both wrong on that one. Yeah, that one was a little surprising. I mean, Omaha did play pretty well. They were competitive at least. Both games were really close. I think at one point, Niagara had a decent lead in at least game one, but and Omaha was able to tie it kind of late, but they ended up, falling 4-3 in the first one. And I think the story was kind of the same in the second game. They both kind of went the same way. So it's a different Omaha team. I think last year they got a lot of good home cooking. That doesn't seem to necessarily be the case this year, and they're going to be a team that I think is going to struggle a little bit more than I originally thought based on this game or this series.
And the season will determine the story of Niagara, and it that's one thing of going too overboard at the start of the year. We can make our predictions and say whatever we're going to say, but until you get later in the year in conference play, Niagara could be the dominant force in their conference, and Omaha could be kind of middle. Well, I should say about 5 or 6 where they normally are. Uh, it could be really good for Niagara, and it could be really bad for Omaha, that loss, as far as trying to get into the NCAA tournament. So it just remains to be determined.
Yeah, I mean you can't lose a season in the first weekend, but or you can't win a season in the first weekend, but you can definitely put yourself a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Mm-hmm.
But a little bit of a surprise, even though I think we both might have picked this. We picked Miami. I picked Miami to have a split. They came out really strong in game one. And honestly, they came out a little bit stronger than I thought they were going to. They seemed to fix their first 5 minute issue that they had against Ferris in game one of the season, but not the same result in game two. They looked a little UMass a little. I mean, they came back and they played really hard and played pretty well and kind of ran away with game two a little bit.
Yeah, I actually had that as Miami getting swept. So the 3-1 win on Friday surprised me a little bit, especially with believe Lowell was ranked, or they are ranked now.
I believe they were 15th going into the weekend.
Yeah, so their loss on Friday surprised me a little bit, especially it being a home series for them.
Yeah, no, Miami's definitely I think Miami's going to be in a better place than we were originally considering them to be. I mean, again, it's really hard to kind of make ground up in this conference, and you have to bring your A game every single weekend. But they definitely did, and it was really, I think, a big second period that led to UMass kind of running away with the second game, if I remember right. Yeah, they scored. Or no, it was actually a big third period. They had 3 in the third. So, you want to finish games strong. At that point, I believe Miami was actually up 2-1 for a long part of that game, I believe. Oh, wait, nope, I would be wrong. They scored one late in the third to make it 4-2. Miami UMass rattled off 4 straight goals. But yeah, they got bit early in the period yet again. That seems to be their flaw this season so far. I mean, 34 seconds into the third period, they gave up a goal. Then they take a power play goal, or give up a power play goal, and then another one a little bit later in the game. So yeah, I mean, but they answered back. They scored a little bit after, not too a minute later after Lowell's last goal. So they definitely play 60-minute hockey. It's just, they're giving too many people opportunities to capitalize on them, and for whatever reason, not being ready for when the puck drops at the beginning of a period.
Yeah, and that can be you have to be all go all the time, and you see it in every single sport where you come out perfect comparison, the Vikings Second half, we come out and all of a sudden we don't even know what a football looks like. Uh, so you can't start slow, especially on the road. You have to come out fast and get a jump on the home team and kind of stem the momentum that they have and quiet the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, what they say that the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes are the most important minutes of a hockey period. So
Mm-hmm.
Miami's definitely struggling in the first part of that. But again, I think we've definitely seen some positives out of this team so far this season. Their goaltending has seemed to get a little bit better. We know that their offense is definitely capable of scoring goals with guys like Red Savage, and his brother got a goal this weekend that he assisted on. Ryan actually had 2 points on the weekend, or at least game two. But no, so big improvements from those guys there, and they'll take on. They have another pretty good test coming up in Canisius this weekend, which we'll get to a little bit later in the show when we do picks for this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Next one. Let's go CC versus Alaska Anchorage. I had a split based on what Alaska Anchorage was able to do against Western in week one, and I was wrong. Colorado
Yeah.
College came out and absolutely slapped on them.
Yeah, I was also wrong. I had CC winning Friday and losing Saturday, and well, I was right about Friday. Saturday, I was wrong. They outscored them 10-3. So we might have been a little bit wrong about Colorado College as well, based off of our
Uh,
preseason assumptions and what we saw in a what we saw against Western, and it also might say something about Western with this team coming in.
I'm not willing to say that I'm wrong about Colorado College yet. And we'll get to how I feel about Western here in a little bit when we cover them, because I want to look back at week one for some of my thoughts on the Western game this weekend. But let's go through here. So Colorado College gives there's no goals in the first period of game one. Pretty even matchup. Both teams back and forth. Pucks moving up and down the ice. Alaska gets an early goal in period two, 12 seconds in. Alaska has some goal scorers. There's some guys on that team who have played meaningful minutes, at least to some degree, on other Division One teams, and they know what they're doing there. So let's not say that's not a bad. That's not a terrible team.
No, it absolutely is not.
I would also argue that they might have one of the closest teams as far as like team chemistry because of the challenge that is playing in Alaska and what that team has had to overcome and being the first team back after a 2-year hiatus. I believe the coach actually has like all their players stay in the same residence hall or dorm, whatever you want to call it. So they're not really spread out much, and they get to hang out all the time. Next, we see that kind of special teams become an issue. Colorado College scores a shorthanded goal. 3 minutes later, they get a power play goal. They have 1, 2, 3 power play goals on the night. Anytime you're giving a team opportunities, being a man down, like you're gonna get, it's gonna come back to bite you. In fact, Colorado College was perfect on the power play in game one. They went 3 for 3. But on the other side, their killers were playing extremely well too, because they had 7 penalties.
My goodness.
I mean, yes, we can say that giving up the man advantage, but Colorado or Alaska just was not able to take as much opportunity as Colorado was. But I mean, it's not a positive when you've got that many power plays. In fact, they took a game misconduct near the end of the game, and I think they finished the game a man down that first night. Did Colorado College. So just able to capitalize on their opportunities, but did a decent job of limiting those opportunities from the other team, even though they had 7 power plays. In fact, I think where is it? Yeah, I mean, Colorado College had 27 minutes on 8 penalties.
But you also have to think to counteract your thoughts on Colorado College, they're going to clean up that discipline. they're going to not take that many penalties all year. And if your penalty kill can perform that well, you're not going to worry about taking penalties. And you're not going to take 7 penalties, but if you have 2 or 3 in a game, heaven forbid you have 4, you're not going to worry about having your penalty kill, especially against a team like Anchorage. That is not a bad team, and they have some offensive firepower to hold them off the board. That's not a bad thing.
No, and they did clean it up a little bit. I mean, they only had 2 penalties in Saturday's game. They did give up a power play goal on Saturday as well. But I'm just like the team. They're only going to play better teams, and if you're leaning on the sense that like yes, you can get away with it against some of these teams early in the season, I think it creates bad habits, and you might be willing to take, or you might inadvertently take some of those penalties later in seasons, and we kind of see it bite Western in the butt every once in a while. Like Western is a heavily penalized team for the most part, and it does not benefit us in the least when we get into playing the Denvers, the North Dakotas, the Minnesota Duluths. Sort of start out your season that way. I think it sets a bad tone, but they were able to get by with it this weekend. Where I don't know that that'll necessarily be the case going forward, and so I don't want to say that we can write the book off and say that Colorado College is somehow gonna be up in that top 3 this year.
Oh, that's not what I was saying at all. But I think as a coaching staff, you would way rather have them get that bad game out of the way early and against a team like Anchorage versus all of a sudden you come into conference play, hey, we're going to take 6, 7 penalties and see what happens. That's just not going to work. So it's a good learning experience early on in the year for those kids. And yeah, they probably should have lost that first game taking 7 penalties. And that would have been even more of a wake up call. But the fact that they won, but they corrected it and only took 2 in the second game, I think that speaks a lot to the team and them understanding, like, hey, we can't be doing this anymore. What the hell were we thinking? Let's clean it up. Let's figure it out and make sure if we're taking a penalty, it's well worth it. Like it prevents a scoring chance that is not going to be a penalty shot.
Yeah. I think let's go to what I think might have been the matchup of the weekend, even though the score doesn't necessarily dictate it as such. Notre Dame versus Denver was an incredible game until kind of late in the third period, and it was kind of almost reminiscent of the national title game this year, where it was a pretty close contest until you kind of saw like the Denver team become the Denver team and just start laying in and playing what has essentially become known as either Denver hockey or NCHC hockey when it's kind of playing against a non-conference opponent. Quite a few penalties. I mean, North Dakota was 1 for 4 on the power play. Denver was 2 for 5. So they're both giving up opportunities. In fact, the first 3 goals of the game were all power play goals. You know, guys like Carter Mazer showed up and played extremely well. But I mean, it was it was 4-2.
Final was 5-2.
Yeah, 5-2. It was 3-1 going into the third. And Notre Dame kind of scored. They scored within the first 5 minutes to make it 2-3. So you kind of thought it was going to be a bit closer of a game. And once again, we saw like that Denver team just run away and take charge and do what they're supposed to do and close out a game. And not by sitting back either, but by charging forward and continuing to play Denver their style of hockey.
Yeah, I know you were messaging me as you were watching that, and you said the game started getting a little bit chippy.
Oh, it was chippy in the first period. Dude, these two teams were going at it. I honestly would love to see these two teams match up again in the NCAA tournament. Like, there was some legit, like, it was a great game.
And they're two very, very proud programs with a lot of history there. Especially, I know we talked about it when we've gone over the schedules where Notre Dame is not very far removed from the the national championship. They didn't win; they lost to UMD, but they were there, and so there are. Oh no, that was 2018. So there might be a kid or two there from that national championship team. I'm not 100% sure, but that tradition is passed down, and they know that Denver just won the national championship, so it's going to be feisty, it's going to be chippy, and I wish I would have been able to watch that game. um, I also didn't have Wi-Fi at the cabin that I was at
Yeah.
because it was locked up. uh, but I'm not surprised that Denver won, and I'm not surprised that they won their Saturday game in the tournament either, because it is that Denver style of hockey. Yes, it's NCHC, but they take it to another level on how they play their game.
Yeah, the interesting things about these two series, though, is I would assume, like, if I were when I was watching these games, I would think that game one would have more of the 3-1 score that game two ended up having between Denver and Maine, because Denver seemed to control a lot more of that game than they did against Notre Dame. And you could literally, like, flip the scores and they would tell you a much clearer picture of those games. Maine came in after defeating Air Force. So it was a true tournament championship game, I guess you could say, between Maine and Denver. Denver gets the icebreaker tournament win. Carter Mazur named the most valuable player for that. The all-tournament team, because I'm looking at it, is Carter Mazur, who is also the MVP, as I just said. Solig Bakic from Notre Dame. Ben Poisson from Maine. Defensemen were Luke Anatasi from Maine and Brandon Koch from Air Force. And the goaltender was Matt Davis.
Oh, really? Magnus Krona didn't
So,
get the goalie of the tournament. Um, I had a point about, oh, I know what it was. Uh, the results of this tournament, the with Denver winning it and them performing the way that they did, that scares me a little bit. Uh, it, and it's what we had talked about, where Denver's just going to reload, but it's almost like they're like Bobby Brink, who they don't care. Yeah, he was the leading scorer as far as points go in the NCAA last year with 87 million assists. But they're like, oh, okay, we lost him. We're just going to pick up right where we left off. And that's kind of a terrifying notion for the NCHC.
yes, for sure. I mean, there were guys who literally don't look like they missed a beat between the national title game and this one. But I will say that there look to be some flaws, or at least some areas that could be exploited. Like the Denver PK unit and their defensemen in general were so aggressive in these games. I think there's definitely an opportunity that if you're playing right, or you can make some quicker passes, that you might be able to take advantage and catch some guys out of position, because they were just hounding pucks. And I don't know that Notre Dame or Maine had the answer for that, but I think there's teams in the NCHC that can definitely step up and make them sit back a little bit more, or at least make them less likely to jump in the way they were. Like, they were aggressive in their PKs and taking opportunities and trying to cut pucks and jump lanes. But there's definitely teams out there that are going to take advantage of that and make it work against Denver. At least I think they're capable of doing so. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, and if other teams are picking up on that and how they work with or against that.
And you have to think to how much of that is the opponents that they're playing. Uh, yes, Notre Dame, this team, they beat Michigan last year. They owned Michigan. Uh, but with Maine, I think they were maybe using it more as an opportunity to say, hey, we can do this, we can be aggressive, we don't have to sit back, because they're not as dangerous as teams we're going to play as a North Dakota, as a UMD, as a Western, the top team, as a St. Cloud. um, we can take advantage of these opportunities. So I think it all depends on the opponent and how aggressive they're going to be. And I think this weekend with those two games and the tournament, yeah, they're wins and losses, but it's not the conference. They're not as worried about it. They're going to be a little bit more aggressive than they are in the conference. And the other thing too, though, is with Magnus back in net, he's experienced. They can be a little bit more aggressive, and they trust him back there to make the saves that he needs to make, and steal them a few games, because he is a goalie that will steal you games instead of uh, giving up games.
Yes. No, 100%. And I mean, they did get some decent, they got some great goalie play from their backup goalie this weekend, too. So Denver's only going to be tougher. But it's, it's one of those situations where you have to take advantage of opportunities given to you. And there might be some opportunities if their defensemen and their PK continue to play as aggressive as they do, they might get caught out of position here and there.
Yeah, I'm just not. I don't look into that too much just based off their coaching staff and um, their record the last, I don't know, 70 years or however long they've been played.
Yeah. And then we're going to go to the last series or the last game of the weekend because it was only a 1-game set. And it was the one I did not watch. I only listened to it. I wish I'd watched it. It was an experience for my ear holes, being able to only listen to the game. And here's okay. I'm gonna read you some numbers, and then we can discuss some things. 10 penalties for 20 minutes. Shots on goal different, or 3 goals given up on 8 shots, 1 goal given up on 10 shots. Those are the Western numbers. Here for Ferris, 5 penalties for 10 minutes. And I wrote down the goalie numbers, but I lost them. So we'll find them again real quick here. I mean, we saw 4 different goalies. 10 goals were scored. It was a monster of a game. 6 goals on 29 combined shots. The first goalie gave up 4 goals on 21 shots. The replacement goalie who came in for the third period gave up 2 on 8. In week 1, Western gave up 3 goals on 8 shots in game 1. 1 goal on 10 shots in game 2. Their record is 2-1 now. Like, they're not playing terrible hockey in front of their goaltenders. They're limiting teams' opportunities. I mean, through 3 games, we're looking at 30 shots, I think. Yeah, 36 shots roughly in 3 games. But, I mean, the number of penalty minutes, 10 minutes in game 3. They had a few in the first series. Like, it was, they got to figure out this revolving door to the penalty box. I think one player took like 3 penalties right in a row, and I'll look it up here in a second. I just lost it.
Well, yeah, and the first weekend too, didn't you give up a 5-on-3?
Dude, we had
well,
and
one on the same play.
Well, we kind of had that in this one too. One of Ferris's, their first power play goal was scored immediately after the 5-on-3 had expired, and it was 5-on-4. So we got a sort of a break there. In that we only we killed off most of one penalty, and we got both of our skaters back.
Yeah, you killed off one penalty, and then 2 seconds later, well, unfortunately, you gave up the goal. But
yeah, last week's first game, we had 4 penalties that led to a 3-1 loss. In game 2, we had, come on, stop being dumb, please. I think we might have had more penalties this game. Oh, no. One for... We gave up 2 penalties. We only had 2 penalties. That's not... Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. So, I mean, we limited the number, but then we went right back up and had 10 penalties against Ferris, and
10 minutes of penalties.
no, 20 minutes of penalties, 10
Oh,
penalties.
oh, good lord.
Yeah, like we've got to clean that kind of stuff up. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the third period alone. And yeah, Hugh Larkin took 3 straight penalties, high sticking, interference, and cross checking. I mean, like, yes, there's some of those where maybe you're retaliating, but you got to figure out how to not be the one caught retaliating. Maybe they're frustration penalties, but when you're up 6-3, like, there's not much that you should be frustrated about.
No, and even if you're taking potential retaliatory penalties against Ferris State, imagine what it's going to be like playing the other 4 top teams in the NCHC, because they're going to know that, and there are guys that are going to get under your skin, and there are experienced guys, and they know exactly who to target to get the power play.
I mean, even though we don't play in the same conference anymore, like Ferris is still an in-state rival. This is a team that we have played year in and year out. When we were CCHA rival, like conference opponents, it was a rivalry for sure. We wanted to beat them; they wanted to beat us. They were essentially kind of like our Central Michigan for hockey, just because of the proximity. You know, it's straight up 131. They're close games every time we played them. But at the same time, like, you have to be better than that. The Western team knows that they have rather inexperienced goalies. That's not to say that we don't have decent goalies or that our goalies haven't played well, but we've done a great job of limiting the opportunities in front of the goalies. Don't make it harder by making sure that those opportunities involve less defenders being there. You know what I mean? Like, we want to put our goalies in the best opportunity to succeed yet. And we're doing that by limiting the number of shots that we have, but we're also not helping at all when we have 10 penalties for 20 minutes or 4 penalties for 8 minutes. We're playing nearly half of periods without full strength.
Yeah, you played a third of the game shorthanded.
Yeah, we played 1 full period shorthanded. Now, you know, we were down 3-0 and roared back with 6 straight goals. So there is some offensive firepower here. And I don't know that anyone was ever doubting that we were going to be able to score based on like who had stayed and who contributed that near the end of last year, because a lot of those guys are picking up right where they were coming from. And some freshmen stepped up. Like we had Ryan McAllister's first goal this weekend. A couple of transfer students. One, Zach Galambos, got into the scoring of the game. Carter Berger also picked up his first goal in a Western uniform. You know, we had 6 goals from 5 different Broncos. Like that's a great sign as far as your offensive goes. But again, like we meant, or like at least like I mentioned, like we have 2 relatively inexperienced goalies. We need to put them in a position to be as beneficial as possible, especially when we're playing teams like North Dakota, Denver, St. Cloud, Minnesota Duluth, who can just score in absolute bunches and will take advantage of inexperienced goaltending.
Yeah, absolutely. All 4 of those teams, they're experienced and they will take advantage. 100%. And it's any team, no matter if you're the best team in the nation or you're the worst team in the nation, if you put your goalie in a bad spot, you can have the best goalie and being on the worst team. You're shorthanded that much, well, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, and I mean we saw North Dakota's goaltender, you know, DeRuyter. He had a tough time playing at Michigan State. It was not a great team in front of him. He comes out and he blanks the first team he sees on the season. So I mean, you know, if you put your team in a better situation or your goalies in a better situation, you're gonna see them come out, and it's gonna be more beneficial for the team as a whole.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter the level of hockey. You look at the great goalies, Osgood in Detroit, Waugh in Colorado, Lundqvist in New York. The teams in front of them, are stellar teams, and that puts them in position to succeed. It's You have to have a good team in front of you to succeed, and that's where you guys have struggled the first three games. In a sense, yeah, you're 2-1, but you still struggled.
Oh, for sure. I think this team is going to mesh. I think we're going to see. We've seen some great play from these guys already. I think that's going to continue to develop and be something worth watching. It'll just be kind of a matter of goaltenders trusting the guys in front of them and being able to make a few more plays here and there. Uh, and we're gonna be. It looks like we're gonna be a pretty good offensive team for sure. And if we can limit, really our big thing right now is we've got to limit penalties, or at least be a little bit tougher on the PK and hope that our goalies can make a few more saves throughout the game. And maybe some of that is them needing to get a few more touches of the puck throughout the game. Maybe they're just getting a little complacent, only having to make 10 saves a game.
Yeah, and that might be a little bit more of a practice thing because, well, if your goalie is only having to make 10 saves a game, that's not a bad thing.
No.
But also, you get, like I said, you guys are 2-1. Doesn't matter how you got there, you're still 2-1. Better than 0-3 or 1-2.
Oh, those are both accurate facts of statement, sir. Before we get to this week's picks, because we're going to make some of those real quick, let's run through at least some of the teams who have let us know that they have players making some NHL opening day rosters. And while we're finishing up here with the Broncos, we'll actually start with them as far as NHL players. The Philadelphia Flyers are going to start two Broncos, or not start, but have two Broncos on their opening roster, and that would be Wade Allison and Ronnie Attard, both who had incredible careers at Western Michigan. Wade Allison actually scored a lacrosse-style goal against Miami. I want to say that was his junior year. It might have, yeah, I think it was his junior year. Because he tried pulling off another one the week after at home and nearly got it, but did not. Ronnie Attard, defenseman who had a pretty stellar career here, just bombing shots from the blue line, and he has taken that rocket of a shot to the NHL, at least for the start of the season. Some of that being his willingness to drop the gloves against a guy that he was not matched up well for. But he didn't turn down the fight, so good on him for that. Paul Cotter, who spent very little time with the Western Hockey program. Turns out school was not for him. I think he might have been here for maybe 8 games his freshman season, and that was it. But he makes the jump to the Las Vegas Golden Knights roster, so congratulations to him and good luck. Jordan Osterley, who only played one season in the NCHC because he was a CCHA player before that. He joins the Red Wings on their opening day roster. I have his jersey in my closet right there. And Matthias Samuelsson, another blue liner, he will be up with the Buffalo Sabres this year. So 5 Broncos making some opening day rosters. I will let you handle your Bulldog roster if you would like.
That sounds good. So we actually have 12 Bulldogs that made opening day rosters. From what I have seen, only 2 out of the 12 were non-NCHC players. Alex Stalock, the goalie playing for the Chicago Blackhawks, he's bounced around the league, spent most of his time with the San Jose Sharks, came to the Wild, went back to the Sharks. I think he was somewhere in between the Sharks and the Blackhawks, but he is on their opening day roster. And then Justin Falk, he is with the St. Louis Blues, and it is not the same Justin Falk that was on the Carolina Hurricanes. Their last name is spelled differently, but he was part of the WCHA. And then we go, I guess, well, I'll stay with St. Louis, and then I'll go west to east. Scotty Perunovich, Hobey Baker Award winner. He is injured right now. He's going to be missing the next 6 months with, I think, his second shoulder surgery. But he still is on the opening day roster for the St. Louis Blues. Out to the Kings, Mikey Anderson and Alex Iafallo, both national champions. They are playing Mikey Anderson, defenseman, Iafallo, a forward, playing for the Kings. Carson Kuhlman and Carson Soucy for the Seattle Kraken. They love their Carsons out there, apparently. Another forward defenseman, Soucy, he went to the Kraken after being with the Wild, but he was also an NCHC defenseman, and both were national champions. Noah Cates, actually, we'll go with Winnipeg first. Neil Pionk, Dylan Sandberg, and Dominic Toninato, all opening day roster for the Winnipeg Jets. One defenseman, no, sorry, two defensemen in Pionk and Sandberg, and a forward in Toninato. Noah Cates for Philly. His brother Jackson did not make the opening day roster, but he was part of the last round of cuts. And then right now, currently on TV, Cole Koepke is playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I am pulling for him, and I think it'd be really sweet if he won the if he won the Stanley Cup. And I believe all but Justin Falk won a national championship. So 11 out of the 12 players that are in the NHL right now on opening day rosters won a national championship with UMD, because Stalock was part of the 2009 championship team.
Oh, look at that. There you go. Minnesota Duluth making champions. However, that is not the most abundant roster on opening day rosters. I think we can kind of guess who that is.
Nobody cares.
That would be those folks from that one state that's to the west and in the middle of nowhere.
What is the Family Guy bit? We're not even the best Dakota.
Yeah. The North Dakota Fighting Hawks, and I will continue to call them the Fighting Hawks because that is their name. And I will do so also slightly to annoy them because I find it entertaining to do so. They have 15 players and a coach currently in the NHL. There's some pretty good names on this list. Not all of them were NCHC players. Follow along at home and guess which ones you think were not NCHC players. Now, remember that the NCHC has only been around since 2013. The Ottawa Senators have Jake Sanderson and Shane Pinto. The New York Islanders will have on their opening day roster Zach Parise and Brock Nelson. Longtime Chicago Blackhawk, that might be a little hint there, Jonathan Taves. Capitals TJ Oshie. The Canucks will have the pair of Tucker Poolman and Brock Besser. Arizona also has a tandem of Nick Schmaltz and Troy Stetcher. Oilers pick up one, Brad Malone. Minnesota Wild added Tyson Yost, I believe, last year on a trade from Colorado.
Yes,
and
last year.
Nashville has Cole Smith. The Bruins have Derek Forbort. And the Florida Panthers have Matt Kerstead. And the coach of the Seattle Kraken, even though he apparently likes to pick up Bulldogs, is longtime UND head coach Dave Haxtell. So, some North Dakota names in the big league. Again, not all of them were NCHC players, but you could figure out which ones weren't and weren't. Based on, and I think Colorado College also has at least two, one from the NCHC in Jacob Slavin, who is still with the Carolina Hurricanes, and pre-NCHC Jaden Schwartz. I don't remember where he's at now. He might be Vegas.
I think he is Vegas right now.
But he is a former Tiger that has made his way to...
I will tell you in a second.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
No, he
Correct?
actually is
Seattle.
Seattle.
So, but he just misses being considered an NCHC player. And that will leave us with our picks for the weekend to close out the episode. Before we go through them, I just want to give a quick run through. If you would like to, you can always like the page here on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel. Or if you're on Twitch and you want to watch this again later for whatever reason, maybe you want to find a moment where someone was doing something stupid and send us a screenshot of it. I don't care, whatever. We are on...
That's every moment.
Yeah, we are on YouTube. Just search Goldhorns and Fight Songs. Subscribe, leave a like, leave a dislike, leave a comment. Don't leave a comment. I don't care. Do whatever you want. There's a email that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. There is a Twitter handle that is scrolling across the screen. We have our personal Twitter handles. Yes, I might have just said squeen. Instead of screen.
You read my mind there. I was gonna call you out immediately too.
I saw it on your stupid face. If you're here in the Twitch channel and you would like to, you can leave a chat. Also, it does not look good for Kepke in here in Game 1. They are down 3-1 to the New York Rangers.
Well, Zibanejad has two. I have it on, and his first goal was just an absolutely filthy shorthander. Like, it was not fair. Vasilevsky did everything he could, and yeah, it was dumb.
Let's see what else. During games, I generally do at least live tweet a little bit if I'm at the game for Western on my personal channel. I'm trying to move over to tweeting about all games on the Goalhorn Twitter handle. We'll see how that goes, because I just like to watch the game. I don't necessarily want to be talking about the game or miss something in the middle of tweeting something. But those are also ways to get a hold of us. Or if you want to, you can participate in the chat here. We generally try to read the comment, or at least try to make sure I'm checking the comments and seeing if anything said or a question is asked. We'll do our best to answer them. We are just fans. We're not really associated with anything other than our fandom of a team, so we may not have the answer that you're looking for. I think that about covers it.
I think so. I think we covered all our legalities. But if New Glarus wants to sponsor me with Spotted Cow, I will not be opposed to that.
Or, if the NCHC would like to help us out with watching more games. I got a baby on the way. I got to figure out how to spend less money, not more money.
I'll spend the money for you then.
I've already got my subscription covered for this year. Let's get to those picks. Colorado at St. Lawrence.
Well, should we start?
I've already started.
I think we need to start with Western.
I have them in alphabetical order.
Oh, well, fine. Be that way.
So, Colorado College at St. Lawrence. I don't know much about the St. Lawrence team. I think the only thing I saw last year was when they played Western, and I think was it them? Or was it Union? That Western had a huge comeback. I'll tell you what, though. If Colorado College plays the way they played against Anchorage, they are going to be difficult to beat.
Especially if they clean up the penalties, which It sounds like they did.
But I also think that St. Lawrence will be able to take better advantage of plays than Alaska did. Seeing as Colorado College will be the team that is doing the traveling this weekend. I'm going to go with a split. I will say... Oh. No, I'm just going to go split. I don't have a good enough feeling either way as to who's going to win game 1 or 2.
See, I was leaning split too, and I think if we're going to both be a split, the best way to determine is pick who's going to win what day, and I think it's going to be St. Lawrence Friday, CC Saturday. Just because it's going to take CC a little bit to get their legs underneath them, and I just don't know enough about St. Lawrence. It could be a sweep for CC, but I think it's going to be a split and they lose the first one.
I think they ride the momentum of beating a decent Alaska team. I think that they're on a high right there. I think they're going to win Friday, but I think St. Lawrence is going to make the proper adjustments and win Saturday. So if we want to play that game, I'll go the opposite of you. That's fine. Fry dub, Sat L.
Yeah, I mean we got to make it a little more interesting, even though there's nothing on the line.
DU UMass. This one is going to be interesting. I think these are two teams that potentially have the possibility of meeting up in the NCHC or the NCAA tournament later this year, no, early next year, whatever you want to call it. Based on their history, I think UMass might be in a little bit of a skid the last couple of years. They haven't really been where they were since their national title appearance. No,
Win because they beat
Duluth last year.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Well, 2 tournaments ago.
Yeah, 2 tournaments ago.
Actual year.
Because they lost to UMD and then they beat them. No, they didn't beat them in the national tournament. They beat them
to get
in
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Because it was like the revenge game after losing after Cale Makar left.
Yeah. Man, Denver's playing so well, but it's at UMass, and if you have the opportunity, like, I mean, if you're there's gonna be a place that Denver's gonna be less likely to win. It's gonna be on the road as opposed to home because they are so hard to beat at home. But they're also playing really, really good hockey right now. I'm gonna say that is a Denver sweep.
Yep, I already typed that in for a Denver sweep. From what I know, I don't think UMass is as strong as they've been the last few years. And Denver, after these last 2 games and their exhibition game, which they probably just rolled everybody and still won 10-0. I don't see them losing.
Yeah. The free space on your bingo card this week is Miami. They have the off week. Minnesota Duluth versus Minnesota State.
This one, I'm actually a little bit. I think this might be the matchup to watch.
That no one can watch unless they're in Minnesota?
Or they subscribe to the CCHA.
Which I think is Flow TV.
Yes, it is. I was just looking at that.
Which I do not.
Mankato just split with Minnesota. They lost 4-1 on the road and then won 3-2 at home. I'm seeing the split. Yeah, they lost 7-2 at Omaha, but that was an exhibition game. So again, kind of throw that one out the window. They split with one of the top teams in the nation. I think Minnesota is 2 or 3, something like that. Like Minnesota's in the top 5. I think it's a split between the 2 teams. I think UMD wins Friday and Mankato wins Saturday.
Minnesota is number 2 in the USHO poll as of the 10th.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
Duluth is 4, so this is a top 5 matchup.
No,
or Minnesota State is 5. Minnesota Duluth is 4, so it's still a top 4 matchup. But Minnesota's number 2 right now.
It's still a top 5 matchup.
Yeah, that's what I said. Oh yeah, I said top 4. Who cares?
I think UMD wins Friday, loses Saturday. I think it's a split, and it's gonna be. I think they might end up 2-goal games, but because of empty netters, at least one of the games will be a 2-goal game because of an empty netter, but they're going to be basically 1-goal games.
I too will go a split, but I'm going to go the opposite way. I think Minnesota Duluth loses on Friday and wins on Saturday. I think them not playing last week, they will be a little bit rusty. It'll take them a little bit longer to get their legs back under them, which will give Mankato a slight advantage in the Friday game. But I think they get it together and they pull it around and make the proper adjustments and win this Saturday game. Minnesota State not having their returning goalie from last year, and Minnesota Duluth playing well with Stay-Skull and
It starts with an S.
Whoever your new goalie is.
Samuelson, Samsonite. I don't know.
I think they might have a slight advantage in goal, at least if Zach is playing. I think that gives the team a rally point and something to play for a little bit more so than normal. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm gonna go split, but Duluth will lose on Friday.
But I think we can both agree that they might end up 2-goal games, but for the general purpose, they're 1-goal games. Not counting empty netters.
Yeah. UNO versus Lake Superior State. UNO coming off a tough weekend, being swept by Niagara. They don't seem to be the team I thought they were going to be. They're struggling right now. LSSU, decent CCHA team. I think they're kind of middle of the road for that conference as well. Haven't really seen them play in a couple years. I feel like Nebraska will be able to kind of right the ship a little bit, but I think they're going to split.
And
they'll get the win Friday.
I think that they're going to get swept. I saw Lake Superior play a few years ago in Mankato against Mankato, and they didn't look bad. They played them fairly closely. Obviously not the same team. This was 2019. But Omaha just doesn't seem to be the team that we thought they might be. So I'm going to go with them getting swept.
I don't see them losing 4 straight games. I think they were pretty close games with Niagara too. I think they get right at least for Friday night. I think LSU is able to make further adjustments and they bounce back for Saturday. Moving on.
I just think that I think Lake Superior is a better team than Niagara.
And we'll find out this weekend who the better team is.
That's just my thought.
North Dakota, Quinnipiac. They split last year in Quinnipiac, or at Quinnipiac. Well, I don't know where Quinnipiac is. I think they're in some other town. It's just called Quinnipiac.
It's New York somewhere.
Yeah.
I got to go with North Dakota sweep.
I want to, but I don't at the same time. I don't necessarily know. Like I said, I mean, it'll be interesting. How much did they clean up their game? Are they overlooking this matchup because of what they were able to do last week? Can DeRuyter play strong again this weekend? Does Quinnipiac have a significantly better team than who did they just play?
They just played Holy Cross.
Holy Cross, yes. I would say yes.
I would say yes, too.
Quinnipiac has been in the national title scene for the last few years, if not, or in the discussion for sure. In the tournament, I believe the last few years. They're kind of a come-out-of-nowhere team, really.
Yeah, they were in the discussion. Oh man, 7, 8 years ago, because there was Minnesota. I think it was like Minnesota, North Dakota, Ferris, or Union and Quinnipiac. I don't know. They were in the discussion within the Frozen Four, or they were in the Frozen Four within the last 7, 8 years. So it's not necessarily out of nowhere, but they went away for a couple of years and now they're back.
Yeah. Um, the thing that makes me lean sweep is just that it's at the Ralph, and that's an intimidating place to play. But Quinnipiac is kind of one of these teams that can walk into anywhere and play meaningful, well played hockey. But I think I'm gonna lean towards the sweep.
I wrote down even before we got to it, it was just sweep North Dakota. I just have confidence in Coach Barry and his staff and the players that have returned to make sure that they bear down and they get that sweep. Um, I I'd be shocked if it was a split.
Mm.
I really would.
No, I mean I could for sure. I mean the sweep does feel the more likely option between those two teams, but I also believe that Quinnipiac has the ability to knock off North Dakota, maybe catch them sleeping a little bit for sure.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as much of a shock as if Holy Cross would have split with them. Um, but it still would be a shock if it was a split.
And it's early in the
At
season.
least to me. Yeah, exactly.
North Dakota is one of those teams who kind of is a little bit inconsistent in the early part of the season. So if they're going to lose one, it would be more likely to happen early rather than later.
Yeah, true.
St. Cloud at Wisconsin. Again, St. Cloud is a team that they did not play last week, much like Minnesota Duluth. I believe the weekend before that I think they've only played one game this year so far, and it was a exhibition game, if I'm correct.
They played a series. They played St. Thomas.
Oh, that's right. They swept St. Thomas. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have been better served playing an exhibition game against somebody else. But that's beside the point. Let's not beat up on St. Thomas too much.
No, we can. I'm very okay with that.
I'm gonna go split, much for the same reason that I went with Duluth. We've seen teams that play either the night before or the weekend before be a little bit more crisp. We kind of saw that in the Western Series, where Western was a little bit late to the show, falling 3-0, but able to bounce back and outscore Ferris 6-4.
I would say split too. I don't.
I think Wisconsin's going to be a step up in competitiveness.
Oh, they're going to be about 3 steps up in competitiveness. But yeah, they play in the Big Ten, and yeah, they have been a bottom feeder the last few years. But I just don't necessarily see St. Cloud being. I think they're going to be top 4 or 5. They're not going to be. I think we talked about this. They're going to be 3 through 5. They're not going to be 1 or 2 this year in the conference. But I think Wisconsin's going to give them a lot more trouble, and they're not as good as they have been in the past few years. St. Cloud.
Yeah.
I think it's lose Friday, win Saturday.
I'm in the same boat. So that's the same pick.
Yeah.
And then the oddball of the schedule this week, Western is playing a home and home series with Bowling Green starting Thursday. Thursday at home I will be at that game Friday on the road at Bowling Green. Western has struggled with Bowling Green the last few times we played them. We got swept. I think we got swept by them the last series we played. I don't believe we played them last year. I can double check that real quick though, but I don't think so. Bowling Green has kind of been on a little bit of a slide since losing their coach, who is now the Miami Redhawks coach. What do I want? What do I want? I want the last couple seasons. That's what I wanted. We've seen Western kind of do a roller coaster. They've won the last two. They won two straight. I think they're still kind of trying to find their way. They still have a problem with. We did not play them last year. I didn't think so. Penalties being a problem. Kind of giving up soft goals being a little bit of an issue. You know, too many goals on too few of shots. Got to get that figured out. It's a good matchup, especially to have early in the season. Looks like we have not played Bowling Green since before COVID. So not a lot of potential for guys to really have known each other and played each other. But yeah, we were swept last home and home series with them.
Yeah, I'm thinking a sweep with this. And I think it's the home and home sweep, or not sweep, split. Um, each home team wins. I do not think that Western is going to come out. You might come out a little too hot because of some of the young kids playing in front of the Lunatics on Thursday for the first time. They might come out a little too hyped up, a little too energized, get going a little too hot, but then settle down and realize that, yeah, this is awesome, but if we play the way we should, we'll get the crowd into it and they're behind us and this is what they want. Um, I think going to Bowling Green, they're going to be coming off the high and it's going to dip down because they're on the road. So I think it's a split, but each home team wins. I just think the Lunatics are going to destroy Bowling Green when they come into Lawson Arena.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the Lunatics are amped and ready to go. They've been literally like chomping at the bit to get a home game this year. The only thing, it'll be interesting to see the turnout for a Thursday game. It's the only like real weird thing about this that I don't necessarily like.
Hey, it's Thursday. The college kids don't care.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing that was it's Thirsty Thursday. I know where all the college kids go on Thursday night. I work there.
Yeah, and you get the money.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the turnout is. I know that Western has had some weird game times. They've had Tuesday night games and had decent turnout. Both teams are coming off of Saturday games, so both equally. It's a short week for both of them. Bowling Green does have to travel. I think that's like a 3-hour drive. So I'm assuming they'll get in tomorrow night.
So it's kind of the
and then they'll leave right after the game. And what both schools will leave right after the game Thursday night.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of the same drive that UMD has to make to Mankato. It's about a 3.5 hour drive roughly. So they're not going cross country.
No.
But I think that still you have to sit on a bus for 3.5 hours if you're if you're Bowling Green, yeah, you're gonna get it in a day early,
I
and
think
then they have the little bit of an advantage, I think, on Friday.
I think Western's gonna sweep this series. They've I think they figured out some stuff against Ferris. They've shown that they can come back in a game. They're not out of a game at any point. The offense has figured some stuff out, and that's not to say that that's going to carry over per se. But I think there was a big confidence boost. They're the team that doesn't have to travel. I don't know. I could be completely mistaken, and Bowling Green could get here early Thursday morning, which in my mind would be kind of dumb. But I think it would make more sense to come Wednesday and get a morning skate in maybe before get a light practice in before the game Thursday night. But Western only has to travel once. Bowling Green has to travel twice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might lean towards Western being a little bit fresher, especially like I said, with it being a short week going from Saturday to Thursday instead of Saturday to Friday. I think Western kind of got I think they played Friday in the NCAA tournament. I was gonna say maybe they got a little bit of experience on that short week going from CCHA or NCHC finals to the NCAA tournament, but I think there might have even been a week in between the two. But either way, like Western's played a weird schedule so far this year, so they've already seen some adversity in travel schedule. But yeah, I'm gonna lean Western on a sweep on this one. As long as we can continue to limit the opportunities and control the puck. Hopefully our goaltenders can play a little bit better. Hopefully the offense can keep it rolling the way it has. And if those things happen, then it should be a pretty easy recipe for a Western win. And yes, wins are hard to come by, but I think Western has the ability, the talent, and the coaching to eke out a sweep here.
Well, then we will differ on that one. And actually, just looking at the schedule, this might not be the best week for me to upgrade my package because the only two teams that are playing at home are Western and North Dakota, and Western only has one home game, and North Dakota is the only NCHC team that has a home series. Every other team that is playing is on the road.
Yeah. It might be a short episode next week, depending on what we can listen to and watch and follow along with on the Twitters.
I will at least be able to find the UMD radio broadcast and listen to that.
So, yeah. But I think that's gonna wrap it up. We'll see how we do next week. I am currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11 and 4 at the moment.
I don't know what I was the first week, but
it's 2 and 4, or 5 and 2 last week, 6 and 2 the week before. So I feel like I'm making some smart picks.
Well, look at you.
I know, right?
Good for you.
Yeah. Vegas and LA just getting started. So,
Yep, Quick is just spraying his face with the water bottle.
For those on Twitch interested, I think I might hop on to some NHL 23 here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, are we gonna figure out the Xbox One because I'm a cheap ass?
Yeah, we can build our team out on the Xbox One edition and see where we go.
Yeah, I gotta call my brother quick, but
yeah, give me a few
I'll
minutes.
hop on with you.
I'll get this shut down and transfer it over so that it can go to the YouTubes, and then we'll start up another stream building our team and maybe getting a couple games in. Thanks a lot to all those who have found our Twitch channel and or YouTube channel and have stuck around to this far in the show. I don't know why you did, but if you did, cool. Thanks, and if you want to let us know that you did, that'd be cool too. If not, whatever. Maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe you won't. just keep putting pucks on net because that means good things are happening, like Go Horns and Fight Songs. Until the next episode, we'll catch you later. I'm out of here. Bye.